Thank you very much. So, yeah, note to self, if you're going to do a talk, don't wear a dress, because you've got nowhere to put this, so I'm just going to hold it. So yeah, thank you for that intro. I'm going to be talking about ClientPortal and how I've used a combination of evergreen funnels and partnerships to market it. So a little bit about me. Up until 2017, I was a freelance designer. And to be honest, I didn't really like freelancing that much because I felt like it didn't really feel very stable having just a few clients who were paying me a lot of money, because if I lost any of those clients, that was a really big deal. I always liked the idea of having a lot of people pay me a little bit of money, so that was always really appealing to me, and I wanted to get into some kind of product. Since then, I have two things. So I have a course teaching design to developers over at designacademy.io, and I also have ClientPortal, which is a lightweight project management tool for freelancers and agencies. And this is what I'm going to be talking to you about today. So ClientPortal initially started from a frustration that I had when I was freelancing. So I'd get emails like this, now and again, and they'd really annoy me. And it was just stuff like, you remember that logo you did for me a year ago, 6 months ago, whatever? Can you send me those files again because I've lost them? And I get it all the time. Can you resend me the proposal? Can you resend me the contract, whatever it is? And it used to really frustrate me. And it also made me feel a little bit unprofessional because if my clients are having a consistent problem, I feel like it should be my job to sort them. So I tried project management tools, but I found them a little bit too complex. So I wanted somewhere to keep all this stuff for clients. I tried Basecamp, and where they were really good tools, but they were just a little bit too complex for me because I was working on small projects and the cost per month was just a bit too high. Clients weren't using it. I couldn't really justify it. So what I did was I just made a little section on my website where clients can log in and see all their deliverables in one place. So this is completely branded to them, and they just see at a glance where the project is. They can see the bits that have been completed, the bits that are active, and then you can see the grayed out ones, the stuff that's upcoming. So they always know what to expect, and they can always go back there and find their files so they don't have to be emailing me all the time. So they can they can download their files. I've recently put in content pages, so you can do text and images and put in videos and all that kind of thing. Or you can just link out to other services. So I always liked using things like Google Docs and other software like that because I found that the collaboration was really good. I much prefer sending a brief in Google Docs rather than a PDF because clients could actually edit this and work with me on it. So I always liked that, and I didn't want ClientPortal to take away from that or try to do too many things. So it's a really simple product. And then, as Eric mentioned, at the time I was speaking at a lot of different conferences, and I was speaking at freelancing conferences. And I would kind of talk about how to give your clients a really good experience, kind of similar to what Kevin was talking about a minute ago, about onboarding and all that stuff. And I had sort of briefly mentioned, if you have this same problem with clients losing their files, you could just put a section on their website and they can see it. And people loved it. It was always like the thing that people would come up to me afterwards and say, wow, I really had a big eureka moment. That's amazing. Where can I get this? And I actually had one conference, which was Brennan's conference, where at the end, I think it was a 2-day event, and he went around the room and said, what was your #1 takeaway of the entire conference? And more than 50% of the people said, Laura's ClientPortal idea, it's genius. So that kind of made me think, okay, maybe people want to buy this because people were asking me, can I buy this from you? So I made it into a product. And so what I'm going to be talking about in the next 15 minutes or so is how I've used a combination of evergreen funnels and the partnerships to grow ClientPortal from pretty much nothing to doing around 9,000 a month on average in the last 2 years. So there are currently 3 ways that ClientPortal makes money. So first, people find it on Google. They search for something like best ClientPortal for WordPress or something like that. And then they browse around the website and then they buy it directly from their website. Second, I get freelancers or agencies who take my free course and then they buy during this pitch window where I give a discount at the end. And finally, people buy via partnerships with other larger companies. So these can kind of be broken down into 2 main areas. So one is the evergreen. It's a little bit more passive. It just kind of runs. And the second one is done on more of an ad hoc basis. I'm going to talk about both of these, but what's really interesting about this is I ran the numbers recently, and I realized that 70% of my income for ClientPortal has come from these partnerships. And what's even more interesting is I probably barely spend around 5% of my time on them. I really don't spend long on them. So that's a really good number. But I do want to talk about both because I think they're both really important to have in conjunction with each other. So I'll start with the evergreen funnel. And this is just basically a way to kind of keep your product running and making a little bit of money on autopilot. So what I do is I put content around the internet, I go on podcasts, I speak at conferences, and I do all that kind of thing. And people will find my content on the internet somewhere about freelancing. I'll then point them towards a free email course where they can dive deeper into the subject of client onboarding or client experience and learn some more. Then they take my course, I give them an email, they get an email every single day with hopefully really valuable information in, and then finally at the end, I give them a brief discount window that they can buy ClientPortal for around 30% off. And this happens like clockwork. So no matter when someone joins, if someone joins today, if someone joins over the weekend, it doesn't matter when. As soon as they finish the 5-day email course, the following Tuesday, everyone who's gone through it the week before is going to get that same pitch, and I don't have to do anything. So I don't have to be there. I don't even know how many people go into these, is maybe going into this pitch this week, for example, but it just kind of runs. That's really nice. So this course, at the minute, it has around 11.5% conversion rate. It's actually a little bit higher than that, though, because I recently had a few thousand people go through it who had already bought ClientPortal. So they're obviously not going to buy it again, and that's really skewed my numbers. So at the minute, it's 11.5%, but it's a little bit more. And it kind of makes around $2,000 a month. So it's not as big as the number I quoted you earlier, the 9,000, but it's still something. And the amazing thing about this is it's all on autopilot. And because it's just me, I'm just a single person business owner, I have like a part-time VA, I'm pretty happy with it. So the reason that evergreen funnels are useful is, first off, you can just set it and forget it. It's a bit of work to set up, especially if you're like me, you're not overly technical. I find funnels really hard and confusing. But once you've set it up, you don't have to worry too much about it. You can always go back and tweak it, you can test it, you can change it, but it's kind of there. Secondly, it gives you something to point new people towards. So if you're like me and you don't like pitching people on your product when you meet them, or you don't like doing talks, or you don't like going on podcasts and doing a hard pitch, you can pitch them towards your free content. So I can pitch them to my email course, or you could pitch them towards an ebook, or whatever it is that you've got. And it just feels a little bit better than doing a hard sell. And third, and probably most importantly, it keeps earning money when you're not actively working on your business. And this is really important because if you're the kind of person who likes to take vacations now and again, or if you're the kind of person who gets sick now and again, this is really good to know that you don't have to be actively doing anything, and it's still going to bring in some money. And obviously that's not going to happen indefinitely. It's not going to, I couldn't just stop work on it now, in 10 years I'd still be earning money from it, but it gives you a little bit of a buffer. So you can enjoy your vacations, you can get sick and not have to worry about where your next bit of money is coming from. So that's really nice. So then once you set this up, all you have to do is drive traffic to it. And I put just in little star things because that is actually really hard, at least for me anyway. It's a lot of work. But some things you can do, probably the most useful thing I do is go on podcasts. And the reason I like going on podcasts is because it takes maybe an hour of my time. I don't have to leave my house, and I get a decent amount of traffic through that. And I actually have my VA. Every week she sets up, she has a spreadsheet of freelancing podcasts that I could go on. And every week she writes about 5 emails for me to reach out to these people. I then go into my email, I'll tweak it, I'll add little things like about my connection to them, how I know them, and I'll send it from me. And so that just kind of keeps things running, so it keeps me getting on podcasts regularly. You can also guest post on popular websites. You can write articles for them, link back to your free email course. You can speak at conferences. You can create a lot of really good content for your blog. That's going to take a lot of time, but it's possible. And you can invest in Facebook ads and drive paid traffic to your website. So the problem is this is a lot of work. And if you're like me and starting pretty much from scratch, I was freelancing, I didn't have a huge audience of people to sell to, this is going to take a really long time to grow your business. And it does for me. This grows slowly. It grows steadily, but slowly. So really the best way that I've found to really rapidly grow my business is via partnerships. So that's what I'm going to talk about now. And about a week ago, Brian Harris from Video Fruit, I don't know if any of you are familiar with him, but he does a lot on marketing. He's got some really good techniques. He sent out this email basically talking about different fads, so things that hadn't worked for his business and things that hadn't worked for his students' business. And it was things like Facebook ads, A lot of the time, this kind of stuff works really well if you're an established company. If you're not, you can be promised that if you follow these 5 steps, you'll get this amazing Facebook ad where you just put $100 in, you get $1,000 out. It's not the case for a lot of people, and it definitely wasn't the case for me. So he's talking about really the best way that you can make money, especially if you're just starting out, is by doing these partnerships. So the way I do it right now is I mostly go on webinars. So kind of similar to podcasts, but basically video. So I'll team up with someone from a company who has a bigger, larger audience. We'll do some free training together, we'll do it live, and then we'll pitch ClientPortal at the end, and we'll just share the revenue 50-50. And that's working really well. And they're kind of a win-win because you get access to a really suitable audience for your product. So they've already built that audience, they've kind of done the hard work, and you get access to that, and they're going to be really primed to buy from you. And secondly, the audience already trusts the person who's referring you. So they're much more likely to buy from you because they've already built that trust with them. If this person thinks you're good and you're going to do some training with them, you've already got that trust there. So that's a really big win too. And third, for the partner, they do minimal work. Sometimes they do hardly any work apart from show up for maybe 10 minutes at the start, and they just get a burst in revenue. So it works for them too. But there are some drawbacks. So the first one is the competition is really high, especially with people who have large audiences to do these partnerships. So they're going to get pitched all the time. So you're going to have to really stand out if you want to, if you want them to say yes to you. And secondly, most businesses are going to be very selective with who they choose to partner with, because they know that their most valuable asset is their audience or their list. So they're not going to want to partner with someone that they don't know. They've never used the product. They're not going to want to do that because, if your product isn't very good or maybe your training isn't very good, that reflects badly on them. So they're going to want to do their due diligence and make sure that you know what you're talking about. So honestly, the way I've done all my partnerships, it's not very formulaic, but I've basically just focused on just building as many relationships as I can. And over the last 2 years, I've gone to so many conferences I can't even count. I just go to these conferences. Sometimes I speak, sometimes I don't, but I just try to meet as many people as I can. I don't pitch someone anything, obviously. I'm just trying to get to know really interesting, smart people, and things usually just happen down the line. You can also make sure to interact with them on social media, like a few of their tweets, reply if they, ask a question. Don't be a stalker, but just try to keep on top of on their radar. And finally, try to give them some value before asking for anything in return. So one way that I've been doing this recently, I was at a conference last month called Cabo Press, and one of the speakers, she was called Jennifer Bourne, and she has an agency, and she also has a course teaching freelancers and agencies. And she seemed like she was kind of interested in ClientPortal and what it could do for her course, because I've got a bunch of course creators using it and they find it really useful. And she had the problem that students were losing, their worksheets and asking to be resent stuff and all the time. So I thought ClientPortal would be really good for her. So I set her up with one. So I branded it to her. I used her course syllabus and just made her very own portal. And then I just sent her an email saying, hey, it was great meeting you. I'd love to give you ClientPortal for free. I think it could really help you in your course. It's helped a lot of other course creators. Let me know what you think. Do you want a copy? And she said yes, and we're just kind of chatting a bit now. But that's just a really good way to give someone something. She probably knows that, I'm going to ask her if she wants to be an affiliate. But really my number one goal is to just make her look really good to her students. So I want her students to use ClientPortal and tell her that it's amazing and thank you so much for bringing this tool to us. That's going to make her look good. That's going to make her want to endorse the product. And that's hopefully going to turn into some kind of partnership. But I just want to finish by talking about my biggest partnership of the year, which was AppSumo. And the reason I want to talk about AppSumo is because I get asked about it all the time. Everyone wants to know how it went, was it any good, would I recommend it, should they do it? So I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about that. So if anyone doesn't know what AppSumo is, it's basically this crazy deal website where people put their software on the website for a few weeks and they do this insane discount and they give things like lifetime support, lifetime updates for a really good price. And I was never sure. I got approached because I actually went to the SumoCon, the conference that they run, and I met the people who run it, and they then approached me and asked me if I wanted to do a deal, and I really wasn't sure about it because I was worried that it was going to devalue my product. I really didn't feel good about selling something for so cheap that I'd put so much time and effort and work into. I wasn't sure. But I decided to do it because I thought, even if it goes really badly and I regret it, at least I've learned something. If I don't do it, then I'm always going to wonder, should I have done that? So I did. So earlier in the year, ClientPortal went out AppSumo for about 3 weeks, and it went really well. I was really not expecting the response that I was going to get. I was worried no one would like it. I was worried that it was going to be too simple or something. But people really loved it, and it was one of their highest performing deals that they've done, so it was good. There are downs. Thank you. So there were definitely a lot of pros to the AppSumo thing. The first one, obviously, is the big burst in revenue. Even though the price was really low and my cut was way lower, when you're getting thousands of people buy, that's a decent chunk of revenue. The second one is, like I just said, thousands of new customers. That's really cool. I couldn't say that before. Now in my marketing, I can say things like join thousands of other freelancers and agencies who use ClientPortal. That's just a really powerful statement to be able to say. Third, the AppSumo customers actually really invested in the product, and they will help shape your roadmap. So if any of you have products, you might know that getting feedback is kind of like pulling teeth. People have got other things to do. They don't want to be telling you what they want from your product all the time. Not the case with AppSumo customers. They're very active in any community that I do, and they've helped shape my roadmap for the rest of 2018 and 2019. And finally, you get amazing testimonials. So I don't know how they incentivize the testimonials. I don't know how they get such good testimonials, but they will make your product sound like it is incredible. And it is so cool to be able to use those testimonials. I'm probably going to be using them forever. So that's really awesome. But there are some cons too. So the lifetime deal people, which you call LTD seekers, they have very high expectations, and they are notoriously difficult customers. So I get a lot of people, they email me, and I've had people email me say, I need this random feature, please have it implemented by Monday. And I'm like, I don't work for you, and also no one else has asked for that, and also, what? Did you even read what ClientPortal was? So they can be really difficult. They're always my most difficult customers. Every time I get a support request now, I actually have a little thing that comes in the sidebar which tells me whether they're an AppSumo customer, and I'm not just imagining it, they are more difficult. So that can suck. Secondly, the support overhead can and definitely does cripple companies, and I can see this. As soon as I did my AppSumo deal, my support requests were just going up, and it's just me, and I pay a developer on a contractor basis to do all my support, so that really adds up. And now every time I release a new feature, I now get a flood of new support requests in. Because also a lot of lifetime deal seekers will buy a lot of plugins. And if anyone does anything with WordPress plugins, you'll know that the more plugins someone has, the more likely conflicts are going to be. So whenever I get support requests, it's usually because of some weird conflict, and it costs me a lot of money, and I have to give them support for life. So every time I do an update, I have to give them that support, and that can honestly cripple companies. And finally, you can also lose trust with previous full-paying customers. So this was a big one for me. When I did my launch on AppSumo, I got a bunch of emails from people who felt really cheated because, you know, I bought this from you full price and now you've put it on this deal website. You know, they felt like they'd been taken advantage of, and that really sucked. I felt like my reputation took a bit of a hit for a while. I did a bunch of like partial refund requests to try and, you know, sweeten it a little bit, but that was just not nice. It felt just sleazy and horrible. But overall, would I recommend AppSumo to other people? Yes, I think I would, if you match these 3 criteria. So first off, if you have a simple product, and ClientPortal is a simple product. It does one thing, and I like to think it does that one thing really well. So the support requests, yes, it's more, but it's definitely manageable. If I had something like Brennan's company, which is RightMessage, he spoke about 2 months ago, I would not put that on AppSumo. It's way too complicated and it's going to be insane. Secondly, if you're just starting out and you don't have a huge customer base or audience, AppSumo is going to be really good. So in other words, if exposure is more important to you than quality of customer, AppSumo is going to be so good for getting the word out about your product. And finally, if you have some other ways that you can upsell or monetize the AppSumo customers. So this is something that I didn't have, but I'm actually working on now. So I'm currently working on a new thing, which is going to complement ClientPortal, which is it's called Project Pack. It's going to be like the best set of freelance documents, templates, everything you need for different projects. And they're all going to be, you know, one click, make this into a portal. So we'll have a web design portal with everything from onboarding documents to questionnaires to, you know, sitemap stuff and everything. And that's kind of going to be my way of sort of upselling the AppSumo customers to try and help with some of those support requests, so I can then reinvest that money into ClientPortal and keep it going. So that's pretty much how I've grown ClientPortal over the last 2 years. Like I said, it's been a mixture of the passive evergreen funnels, which, yes, they don't make a ton of money, but I see that as more of a long-term game to bring me a more stable income. And the high-value partnerships, and they've really provided the more rapid growth and the bigger bursts of income and exposure. So that's it for me. Thanks for listening, and if you have any questions, happy to answer them.